comparing what you saw and comparing what you read, what you have been reading on the international media about all the horrible things that were alleged to have taken place in Xinjiang, including genocide or forced labor, concentration camp. How do you understand the huge gap? What accounted for the huge gap between what you saw and what you understood and what was told to you on the media? And why do you think so many lies are being stirred up about Xinjiang?
First of all, China is a success story, and Xinjiang is another example of this success story. I think Xinjiang within the last decade achieved about 250% growth. It's a remarkable figures, and it's reflected on their on the people's life and well-being. And about genocides, these ridiculous accusations. You know, you cannot accuse a country that hosts 56 ethnicities living in peace for thousands of years of committing genocide. You know, the diversity is enough proof that there is the real essence of the democracy and acceptance is manifested within the people and their culture. I want to tell you, the gap between what we saw in reality on the ground and what we usually read in Western media outlets is unbridgeable by all standards. Of course, coming from Syria, after 12 years of terrorist and Western war launched against my country, in fact, it's the same game replay of the same lies from the same media outlets that are forging stories out of nowhere. It was very impressive tour. Everyone was impressed. And what impressed me more, including all the delegation, was the successful policies taken by the Chinese government that changed this remote province into an oasis of business and success, which reflected on the lives and well-being of the people there from all ethnicities. The peaceful atmosphere where you can walk in the markets for late hours in the night.
There was recently a deal signed at an exchange of notes ceremony held in Damascus in July, and Syria is set to receive communications equipment from China, which is part of an ongoing aid framework that aims to improve local network infrastructure, especially in those areas hardest hit by the Syrian war, which began in 2011. What could you tell us about this project, and how is that supposed to benefit the Syrian people in their reconstruction?
Dear Yushin, in fact, out of gratitude, we must express our thanks. In fact, the government and the people of Syria for the humanitarian assistance the Chinese government and people extended to my country throughout the dire days of the Syrian crisis. This assistance helped Syrians fare through the tough days in various fields, whether medical, transportation, telecommunication, education, food, especially COVID-related, during the pandemic, equipment to fight cancer, prosthetics, a lot of casualties because of the war. China extended a really needed help to the Syrian people. And I want really to compare, I want your esteemed audience to compare the totally different approach China took to help Syria, while on the other hand, Western unilateral illegal measures suffocate Syrian economy and people, imposing blockade, cutting Syria's bank from the international financial system. The West, unfortunately, has not changed its skin and cannot. In fact, they have been culprit in the Syrian war, just like ISIS terrorists. There is an image that I cannot forget. I visited Xinjiang maybe in 2016, and the same image of destruction. I cannot see any difference. That the destruction I saw in Xinjiang and with what I saw in Palmyra.
Finally, Your Excellency, if I may, there is the 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party to be convened on the 16th of October. What are your expectations?
In fact, we follow, of course, carefully the 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party. It's important for China and I think for all the world. especially now the timing it's held in the wake of the pandemic, as well as the changing international atmosphere, adjustments in the rebalancing of distribution of weight with the rise of Asia and China in particular. We are interested in knowing the new agenda that will be discussed and expect more Chinese initiatives in support of international growth within the context, of the shared future for humanity. We believe this will positively impact international stability and development, as well as the well-being of Chinese people. It's a very, very important conference, and we will follow very carefully, and we wish success for this Congress.